From Universal Pictures and RKO Pictures, it's the rock and roll classic from 1984, Streets of Fire, starring Michael Paré, Diane Lane, Amy Madigan, Rick Moranis, and Willem Dafoe. Welcome to Reading Between the Lines, our classic movie review show. Once again, I want to remind you we're going to have spoilers.
Try it again, punk.
Streets of Fire was directed by Walter Hill, who brought us some other classics such as 48 Hours and The Warriors.
Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
Walter Hill also wrote the screenplay for this movie along with Larry Gross. It's the 1980s. We've got MTV. We've definitely got rock and roll. Streets of Fire is kind of a cult classic. When it was released in 1984, it bombed. It had a production budget of a little over $14 million and only raked in at the box office a little over $8 million. So it was considered a failure at the time, but it has basically gone on to have a cult following, and I've been a cult member for a long time.
This is my countdown to love. Oh, this is my countdown to love. You are the one love in my life. I know you feel that way too. Oh, what a thrill when I'm holding you near. All of my wild dreams come true.
Streets of Fire by no means is a great movie. However, it is a very entertaining movie. It has a lot of elements in it that make it enjoyable to watch from beginning to end. To me, the most significant thing about the movie, just from a filmmaker's standpoint, is the editing. I think the editing job on this movie is very, very good, especially from the opening credits, getting us into the opening song from Ellen Aim and the Attackers, and then getting into the kidnapping, and then just getting into then the hero, Tom Cody, arriving. All of this is basically in the opening credits of the movie, and it's just cut and edited very, very well. There are examples of just great editing throughout this movie, and particularly when we get to what I think is one of the best on-screen fights that there is, which is the great sledgehammer fight between the hero and the villain, Tom Cody, and Raven Shattuck.
Nice, huh?
What I really enjoy is the creativity of this movie. Walter Hill does a really, really fascinating job of taking this original musical and blending the 1950s into the 1980s and creating his own world. And it's done well. I mean, it's done masterfully. And so the idea of just combining that 50s and 80s styles together for an MTV generation, to me, it just works. It's very, very well done. And so even the music has it. The music. So when you have, for example, in the bar scene where you've got the band, the Blasters, blasting out that 50s sound music, it still works. All the way up to where you see the Sorrells singing I Can Dream About You, which is a great 80s song and one of the big hits off of the soundtrack. All of those things work. The music works, the costuming works between the leather jackets, and the suits, and, some of the girls walking around looking like they're Madonna. It all works. The whole thing for me just works, and that's just very good screenwriting and, of course, very good direction. Tom Cruise was chosen to take the lead for this movie, but he couldn't do it. He had taken on another movie, and so Michael Paré steps in. And there's been a lot of criticism, especially at the time when the movie came out, and sometimes I'll hear critics and stuff talk about Michael Paré's performance afterwards, and I was like, you know what, I don't know what you guys are talking about, because I think Michael Paré is perfect for this part, because for me, the Tom Cody character needed melancholy. Tom Cruise does not present melancholy, especially at that age, at that young age in the 1980s. But for me, Michael Paré does. He has melancholy in him, and it's kind of like a Shakespearean character. Here's the guy that has had this really rough past. He's a soldier. He's had a rough past. The love of his life's been kidnapped, and so there's a lot of different elements and sadness to the character to a certain extent, and Paré can bring that. Where I don't know if Tom Cruise, who's more of a, smiling, good time actor at the time that he was performing the movies that he was doing at the time, from things like Top Gun and so forth and so on, and Risky Business. And so I actually like the choice of Michael Paré over the Tom Cruise choice, and I think it works very, very well. Diane Lane plays Ellen Aim, the rock and roll femme fatale. Now, Diane Lane was 18 years old when she got cast in this movie, but she was by no means a beginning actor. She'd already had about 8 to 10 movies underneath her belt before she did Streets of Fire. And she's really wonderful in this part. She looks very good. She's very sexy. She plays the part of being a rock and roll starlet, to a T. She has that 80s look. It's perfect. And so I really like the casting choice of Lane in this particular movie. Amy Madigan plays McCoy, the soldier. And Amy Madigan, when she wanted the part was actually written for a man. And she said, well, I could do it. And so they actually kind of rewrote some of the things so that Amy Madigan could play this soldier of fortune who comes in to basically be Tom Cody's partner in all of this. And she steals a lot of the scenes. So she really is a scene stealer in this movie. Rick Moranis plays Billy Fish, and Rick Moranis' character is just obnoxious, and Rick Moranis does a good job of playing that part. I had my doubts when I originally saw the movie, and I saw Rick Moranis in the credits, and I'm sitting here thinking, Rick Moranis? But he plays the part of that rock and roll promoter with a lot of zest. And so he's very colorful, and the back and forth between him and Tom Cody, the character Tom Cody played by Michael Paré, is fun. It's fun. The guy that steals the show, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe is very young at this time. It's one of his first early movies, and his look and his presence, it's wonderful. Willem Dafoe, you could tell right away that this was an actor that had something. That there's an it factor with certain actors, and he has it. And you could tell that right away when you watch this. He is the villain. He's the bad guy. He's wonderful. The music of Streets of Fire is fantastic. We're going to start with Jim Steinman, who wrote a couple of songs for the movie. The opening number, Nowhere Fast, was a song that he also had, that Meatloaf had also performed. Meatloaf, of course, has done several Jim Steinman works. His entire album, Bat Out of Hell, for example. So other great artists that have also done some of the Jim Steinman works. Even Barbra Streisand has done Jim Steinman works. Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart. So Jim Steinman has been a songwriter around for a long time, and especially a lot of the artists in the 80s were doing his songs. And so what I like about the Jim Steinman work is that it's very theatrical. And so it kind of fits for this kind of rock and roll opera that we have. And so to start the movie off with the song Nowhere Fast is just wonderful. There are other artists that contribute to the soundtrack of this musical. Ry Coder, Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks, to name a few. And they all contribute to this. The big standout of hit, of course, is the Dan Hartman song, I Can Dream About You. But the whole album itself, as far as the soundtrack album goes, is an enjoyable listen. And the music works very well within the movie. So we have the concert, Ellen Aim and the Attackers performing, but then you've got, like on the bus, and you've got the Sorrells singing, Countdown to Love. Or you've got, an interlude where you're having to change, or you're looking at memories past and stuff like that. And you're listening to a song like, Sorcerer, or listening to a song like Never Be You. And those songs are used as well within the movie. All in all, Streets of Fire is a wonderful movie. It's fun. It's adventurous. Michael Paré and Diane Lane work well together off of one another. Willem Dafoe is a great villain. And on my ranking from 0 to 100, I give Streets of Fire an 85. I want to thank everybody for watching our channel, and if you like what you see, please hit that subscribe button. I've got a lot more videos on the way. You've been watching Reading Between the Lines.